welcome to the Tactics podcast. Today I'm joined by Andy Daniels, CEO at Sharp Gaming. Hi Andy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So look, I always like to start these things with having the guests introduce themselves. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, could you run us through it?
Yeah, I'm Andy Daniels. I'm the CEO of Sharp Gaming, as you said, and I guess my background is been running Sharp Gaming. Sharp Gaming is today the in-house technology department of the Betfred Group. We've been in business for about five years now. We were born out of my first business, which was called Degree 53, which was a digital agency. We started building a new platform for the global gambling industry, and realised we could make a business out of that. So we spun it out, and then Betfred bought us out. And I guess the connection to Betfred was Fred. I used to work for Fred. He backed me in my first business, Degree 53. And then he was funding the build of what was Sharp Gaming, and he realised that it'd be such a differentiator for Betfred to have their own technology that he didn't want to go and sell it to anyone else. So he bought us out, and I decided that that'd be the right thing for me to do to continue on that journey.
Amazing. Wow. And where are you from? You're Manchester, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm from Urmston.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Yeah, proper Manchester entrepreneur then. Yeah. So what was your journey from, because you're a techie at heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your journey been to here?
Well, I'm a developer by trade, and how I got into that was I'm probably a bit older than I look, and back in the sort of mid to late 90s, I just got my first computer. And that was in the days of dial-up internet, and you used to get CD-ROMs with here's a new ISP, and you used to get a different email address, and I used to do my mum's brains in by using the internet before 6 o'clock and stuff like that. And one day I got one that said build your own website. So I thought I'll have a bit of that. So I started building my own website, and at the time all websites were just like homepages. They were like, this is me, this is my family, this is what I like. So it was kind of like pretty much like that. And I guess I was probably 14, 15 at the time, and the only passion I had in life at the time was United. So I built a website about Man United, and became a bit of a real interest for me. So, at the time I was doing kind of like going home and away in Europe with United. So it was kind of turned into kind of like a bit of a editorial about that and my life going to United. And I got myself into the Yahoo directory. So this was really before Google was a thing. And the Yahoo directory, for the people who don't remember it, was very much like the Yellow Pages of the internet. So it was just like you go into categories, and you could see football, teams, Man United, and there was probably about 25 websites in the Yahoo directory about United. And I think I was probably only one of 2 or 3 which was actually UK based, because back in those times all websites were American, because that's just where the internet got started. And one day I got a message on my guest book saying, we really like your website. We're a company based in Manchester. Would you come and speak to us? And my initial thoughts was that's going to be one of my mates taking the mic, but then realised that it was the 90s and no one had the internet yet. So I got speaking to this company, and they were the first big digital agency in Manchester. And I went in to see him, and I got the bus after school, and made the mistake that I've never lived down of going in my school uniform, because I was like, 50, didn't know anything better. Got on the 15 bus to town and went to meet the company. And I don't know, it was a company called Unite. There was about 100 people, I think, about this time. I think it must have been about 99, I think maybe 98, maybe 99, can't remember exactly. And got speaking to him, they really liked my website. And what they were doing, they were trying to convince United to build a website. So it was before United had a website. So what they had done is to convince them is they built one of the United fanzines websites. Right. And after that, I started working on that website for them, and then left school at 16 and went straight to work for them as a developer. So I was lucky in a way, because at the time my friends were going into being one was a joiner on an apprenticeship. One was a mechanic on an apprenticeship. One of them had joined the Paras. And I got this job as a developer in the city centre. So, I thought I'd made it at that point. And fortunately, we didn't win United's website. We did win Liverpool's and Everton's, and I had to work on them, which was
Soul destroying.
yeah. But that was sort of a good grounding really in being that. And then that was, I think, when I started work in the summer of 2000 after finishing school, and that was just during the dot-com bubble. And Chris Sheffield, who was the managing director of that business, and sold it to M Brown, JD Williams, just based over the road actually, and to be their kind of like e-commerce division, because that was seen to be what the future was. And then not long after the dot-com bubble burst, and Chris got out of that at the right time, I think. And then maybe a year or so later, I bumped into Chris and his wife at Old Trafford, and his wife had been finance director of the previous business, Unite, or the business where I'd worked. Chris and Ord said to me, "Andy, do you want a job?" I think I was just stood on the corner with a mate who was selling the fanzines. And I said, yeah, what is it? And Chris said to me, I've got an idea for a new business. I've been thinking about it, and I believe that mobiles are going to be as powerful as computers in the next couple of years. Everyone's going to be doing everything they do on the mobile phones, and on the internet, and much more on the mobile phones. And it was a bit like, really? Like, you just about play Snake on it at the moment, and still had probably 160 characters on text messaging. When the internet first took off, where was all the money made? And it was porn and gambling. And as Ord, his wife, was going to be finance director, we're going to have to do a mobile gambling business. Yeah. So we set about trying to be the first company in the world to do mobile gambling. And we were second by a few weeks, which had nothing to do with me delivering anything late, I can assure you. Chris seems to remember otherwise. So yeah, that's how I got into being a developer and got into the industry that I've been in ever since, really, the betting and gaming industry.
First of all, Chris fella, what a visionary.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah, geez. I don't know how anyone would have that foresight to be like, okay, yeah, this is going to be big.
I mean, it seems like a bit obvious now.
Yeah.
But it was well ahead of its time, because we started doing this in 2003. And I guess where the journey went after that was Chris wanted to build casinos on your mobile phone, but just the technology wasn't available to do that. And I think the best thing you probably got on your phone was probably Snake 2, So it wasn't really until the sort of mid 2000, I can't really remember, 2006, 2007, we were able to start building games. And then that, I think in 2008. We were acquired by what was one of the largest gambling systems and software supplier in the world, called IGT, who were based in Nevada. They bought us as their sort of like mobile arm, and even then it was another couple of years till 2010 when mobile really took off. The App Store came out in 2009, and the World Cup happened. Certainly from our industry, 2010 was the first time people started betting on the mobile phones during the World Cup.
Right.
It was almost 10 years before it actually became a big thing. But he was a good thinker, Chris.
Yeah, and then Degree 53, which obviously a lot of people in Manchester know about. Where did that come from?
So after mobile took off, I joined Betfred to head up their mobile division. I met Fred, and he sort of said that I've got really, really successful retail and online business, and I hear mobile is going to be the next big thing. So I want you to come in and sort of help us deliver on that. So I joined Betfred, and the way we set up was not long after I joined. Betfred bought the Tote from the UK government, and for those who don't know, the Tote was publicly owned bookmaker that ran the sort of monopoly on pools betting for horse racing. It was actually set up by Winston Churchill in 1928, and Fred bought that for I don't know, I think it was something like 260 million off the government. or off us. In merging those two businesses together, it was obviously quite a huge integration job to merge two massive companies together, Betfred and the Tote, and they were quite different businesses culturally. One was a family, Betfred's a family business, and the Tote was a public sector organisation. So merging those two businesses together was a big job, and I felt that trying to kind of launch a whole new product in that kind of whilst going through this big integration would be problematic. So we came up with the idea to set up a development studio. We set up in the Sharp project, and there was 6 of us, including myself, and the idea was we'd just do the mobile development and we'd feed into the rest of Betfred for different services, like for design, UX. I'd never heard the term UX at the time, and back-end development and testing and other things. And having the first business I worked at would be in an agency. The way we sort of geared it up was we'd be like an internal agency, so we could get away from kind of like the corporate IT setup, which was going through a big change at the time, and we could just get on with it and deliver things. And that was the idea. And we set up in this office there was 6 of us and there was 9 desks. So I thought I had a bit of room for growth. But roll on like sort of 10 months later, there was like 14 of us sat in that office. It was pretty cozy. But we'd won some awards for innovation in the industry. So Fred was happy and he let us move into a bigger office in the Sharp project. So we got an office, I think it was 22 desks in there, and I thought, wow, God, I'm never going to fill this. Maybe I could get a pool table, but the Sharp project already had pool tables, so we didn't go down that road. And then not long after, Fred's brother has got a very successful business who I'm pretty sure we're looking at.
Peninsula,
yeah, Peninsula. They came to see me and said, look, Andy, we're trying to take some of our products mobile. Could you help us? And kind of like at that point, it sort of light bulb went off and thought, well, I've got this team in Betfred that's being run like an agency, working with Betfred as a customer, and I could do this for Peninsula, and why couldn't I do this for all of Fred's business empire? And then obviously it wasn't a big leap after that to think, well, I couldn't just become a business because I've got all these really smart people doing really sort of cutting edge mobile stuff, and everyone wants that. And I'm clearly a very, very smart person who knows it all. And having been a developer, I could do anything, like, because I'm clearly doing the most complicated thing in the world. So running a business would be easy. So we spoke to Fred about this, and it wasn't something that happened instantly, but over probably the next year, we sort of built up the team, delivered on a few things that Fred wanted me to, and on a kind of like 1st of September 2013, I took the team that was the mobile development team in Betfred and turned into Degree 53 with nothing more than a contract to continue to do work for Betfred and a nice new shiny office for 70 people, which I thought, wow, I'm definitely never going to fill this. And it was so big I had to sublet some of it out. Yeah, I thought, clearly I'm super smart, so I'll know how to run a business. But you quickly learn that you know nothing about running a business. Despite the fact that I could write code, I knew nothing about sales and marketing and account management and finance and commercials and all that sort of stuff. And it's a bit of a rude awakening. But we managed to turn Degree 53 into what I think was a pretty successful business.
Clearly, yeah. Because for anyone who doesn't know, recently sold, right? 6-8 months ago.
October, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. To Bally's Interactive, who are an American-based company again, right? What's that journey like? I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs based in Manchester who are going through a similar sort of journey, probably where you were when you were setting up Degree 53, having those concerns around, okay, we're going through it now. You buy an office, you're like, how am I going to fill this? You get a bigger office, how am I going to fill this? And all of a sudden, you've got an American company tapping you on the shoulder, going, right, we'd like to buy your business. What was that journey like? Selling your baby, basically? Probably
not as glamorous as you probably think. I guess to the backstory of what happened was, like I said, we set up Degree 53, and then we started on this side project to build Sharp Gaming. And what really happened was Sharp Gaming became such a beast. It was like Degree 53 was probably at its peak about 55 people. Sharp Gaming's about 300 today. I was had the choice between, do I continue running Degree 53 or do I try and do something much bigger in Sharp Gaming, but maybe do it with Fred and be part of that. And for me, having done Degree 53 for 5 years and doing an agency, I loved it, but the constant sort of sales cycle wasn't something that I really got excited about. So, I like to build things. I like to build products and think about technical ideas about how you can apply technical solutions to businesses. And, when you're running a business, an agency, as you probably know, it's, there's a lot of it's just about business development. And, I never got that kick out of business development. I never felt like I wanted to get up and ring a bell when we got a sale. So I decided to go and do Sharp Gaming. And Rich Wagstaff, who was my operations director, who had worked with actually at IGT, worked with for many years. He worked with me at IGT. He joined the Betfred team. He then was with me in Degree 53, and he stepped up and to run Degree 53. He wanted to crack at it, and I was like, yeah, go for it. Me and Rich were talking about, kind of like what's the end goal for Degree 53, because we'd created something where when we first got started, it was like we're a mobile company. We're going to do everyone needs mobile. We've probably got the best source of people in Manchester to do this, right? What we sort of found was we'd got vast experience in one industry, and it was hard to break out of that. And we were spending a lot of time trying to break out of it. And we spent 80% of our time targeting 20% of our market. And that 20% of our market was Northwest businesses. And then we realised 8% of our business was gambling. We were just getting that work for fun. So we sort of pivoted and just said, you know what, we'll still do other work, but we're not going to go out looking for that and actively market for it. And we just flipped into being focusing on the gambling industry. And the gambling industry is quite a niche. It's big business, but it's quite niche. And we just found that we became a global player in that. We were, I believe, at the point of being acquired, that we were the leading digital agency in the world globally. In the last 18 months or so of my ownership of Degree 53, we'd worked in Hong Kong, in various parts of Africa, throughout Europe, Australia. We'd worked in Brazil. We'd worked in North America, the US and Canada. The Caribbean, we were working all over the place. So, it was, we'd gone from which I thought was a real successful story, because I think if we were looking at sort of other kind of like agencies in Manchester, then, we had a massive global reach. But, at the gambling industry, it is quite niche. So we were working with various people. And what's happened in our industry is the US is started legislating gambling at a state level. So it's gone from years for being sort of something that's in prohibition over there, and then the Supreme Court turned it over and said, no, this isn't constitutional. So state by state, the gambling market in the US has been opening up and liberalising. And what's happened is there's obviously the US as a market is huge. Yeah. All the big US companies, the Caesars, MGM, the people you see on the Las Vegas Strip, they're the big players over there. And, there's been a massive part of consolidation in our industry. So we saw that there was a potential for a sale, because we've got this team of people that are experts in what they do, in an industry that is complex. And, there's a global talent shortage of technical people. These companies were buying Degree 53 is not going to be that big of a deal. It's probably some of it is a rounding error compared to these multi-billion-dollar businesses. So we always knew there'd be opportunities there. But when we did have a few inquiries, but it wouldn't have been right for the team. And it was because I wasn't going to go with any sale. I'd always say to Rich, "Well, you're going to want to work there," because ultimately that's what it came down to. And a couple of people that Rich spoke to said, no, absolutely not. So it didn't go anywhere. And then I guess we weren't looking for anything. We had an unbelievable year in 2020 to 21, because obviously every retail business was digitalising, I guess, like a lot of people. And somebody that I knew, one of my sort of people in my network, contacted me about a piece of work. They just moved to Bally's recently, and I put them in touch with Rich, and then he met them, and a week later they said, yeah, I think they want to buy us. So he met him, and it was just that a week later we were going through the process.
So a pretty smooth journey in comparison to, I'm sure, a lot of other people go through.
Yeah, I think so. We weren't looking for it, and I guess it's always like you don't find love when you're not looking for it. It was that sort of story. But yeah, we were going through this kind of like massive Sharp Gaming was my full-time job. I was spending 150% of my time on that, trying to make a success of that and the wider Betfred group. And I was also like working on this this acquisition as like in my spare time. I guess how it sort of felt to me at the point of sale. I was sat in a meeting when it all went through at work, and some I don't know, we'd had some issue that I was dealing with, and it's IT, so I guess whatever the only stuff that comes to the top are probably major issues. So I was sat there dealing with a major issue, and the my solicitor rang, so I answered the phone. He said, "Yeah, it's all gone through." Sort of smiled to myself, and then carried on sort of listening to these problems that these people had. So it was a complete anticlimax, if I'm honest. Yeah. It wasn't kind of like I guess some people sell the business and then they get a big check and then they can go and buy a Ferrari and go on holiday. I was working, and I wouldn't have had that any other way, to be honest with you. And you speak to a lot of people like that and just say it is an anticlimax, I guess. I think you kind of work for something for so long and then you get it and it's a bit like, yeah, what next?
Was it tough letting it go?
No, not at all. I think I'd moved on. I think with I'm today Sharp Gaming. We really want to make a success of that and really drive Betfred Group's business forward on a global scale. And that's a new challenge. So I don't, I didn't have any qualms about letting it go. I liked Bally's and what they were trying to do. I liked the team were bought into it. That mattered a lot to me because, not just Rich, but other people had been there since the very start. If it wasn't right for them, then, I think I'd feel a bit bad about that, or maybe I wouldn't have even done it. They all seem happy. I think the business is going from strength to strength. But yeah, I think you've got to look forward in life, haven't you, and think about what's next. There's no point looking back because you can't do anything about that.
Luckily, you were in a position there that you had Sharp Gaming that you were focused on anyway, and again, I think that's the next part of your very episodic this talk was the next episode in your life series is Sharp Gaming, right? So again, where did Sharp Gaming come from as an idea, and where is it now?
Where it came from really was from Fred.
By the way, what's Fred like?
Fred's one of the best people you'll ever meet. Fred's a bookmaker from Odsall. Yeah. Right. But he's a billionaire. But he's somebody he's 78, 79, I think actually. Wow. He's very humble. Talks to everyone. What you see is what you get with him. But he's just like so shrewd, and he just sees all the angles. And he's in the business of weighing up odds and make going with his gut. And I think I read an interview of someone recently who'd worked with him, and they said, but he also worked for various other entrepreneurs, and they said all these businesses I've ever worked in are all data-led. All decisions come from data, apart from Fred, who just goes with his gut. So he's clearly got a very good gut. He's not someone who is a technologist. So when I've got sort of technology problems, he's not there to help me. I'm there to help him with that, But what I learn from him is dealing with people, and Fred's someone that if he gives you his word, you don't need a contract from him. He'll always follow through on it, and I think that's really important to me. Someone you can trust. He's got he's never got anything to hide, and he's an open book, which I think is refreshing for someone in who's achieved what he's achieved. You know, he's a mentor. You know, I'd like to think of him as a friend. You know, during the days of lockdown, we'd take our dogs out and walk around Worsley Woods together, and you know, and talk about, you know, business, how things were going, but we talk about life as well. And I think, you know, if ever I speak to anybody who's just met Fred, you know, like I had someone in the office, you know, an account manager from a large cloud provider recently, and they sort of said to me, I saw Fred in the lift. He was with his dog, and I was like, yeah, his dog just follows him everywhere he goes. He's got a great retired greyhound.
Of course, he'd have to.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then I went out and I went to Pret, and he was in Pret, and he let on to me because I think he'd seen me. I was like, yeah, he was shocked that, you know, I guess, you know, that you do that, and I'm like, no, you do that for anyone. He's not like, there's no sort of airs, and everyone calls him Fred, you know, like it's not, and he speaks to everyone. So I think that's, you know, one of the many redeeming qualities he's got.
Sure.
But yeah, the idea for Sharp Gaming, from a technology perspective, the gambling industry is really complex, right? Because a bookie's website, if you look at it, it's sports betting, right, and it's gaming, right? They're the sort of two main products, right? But gaming's, you know, it's casino, live casino, bingo, poker, and all this sort of stuff. And then sports betting is vast. A lot of people in that technology probably don't have an appreciation for what's going on under the hood. But I always say to people, that's like 4 or 5 other businesses in sort of people who we're competing with talent for. They've probably got one of them systems, and we've got 5 of them. So let me give you an example. So we've got like a really rigorous financial services platform, because we're in a highly regulated market. We're regulated by the government. We've got laws to adhere to. We've got gambling licenses. We've got to make sure that we've got full anti-money laundering processes, know your customer, age verification. We've got to make sure that people are protected and, you know, can gamble in a safe manner. And, you know, that platform that we've built is like as big, probably even bigger than your banking application, because we've got all payments, integrations and everything. So that's a really complex system. And then we take the gaming part. We've got integrations to all this gaming content, which, you know, there's various gaming companies that would do that, but we've got, you know, probably 12 different gaming providers on our system. And then we've got our own games, so we're building our own games. We've got a whole platform for building games as well, and that requires artists and mathematicians to come up with the logic behind the games. And then you've got sports betting, and sports betting is a beast. So placing a bet, if you like that, is like an e-commerce site where you've got tons of options to place a bet, and you put it into your bet slip and you place it. But that's not like a stock management system. That's a trading system off the back of it. So we've got a stock market system. So it's a hugely complex system. There's not many places you can actually go and buy one of these off the shelf, because even though gambling is huge industry, but there's not tons of businesses, because it is big business, right? So there's not that many options to go and buy a system like this. So Betfred were on one, and it was kind of falling behind in terms of its product, and it had been bought by a company, and another company then bought it, and it was kind of seen as a bolt-on product, and it was falling behind the competitors. And there was only really one other place for Betfred to go in the UK at the time. Again, that was quite an old product as well, and not somewhere where, given the choice, you would go there, because a lot of Betfred's competitors were on there. So if Betfred moved there, they'd just be one of many people. So Fred sort of said, "Can Degree 53 build us a platform?" And I said, "Well, we can, Fred, but it's going to be a big job and cost a lot of money." And he said, "Well, I don't care. Can you do it?" So we kind of started looking at how we would do it. And, you know, I was thinking it's probably going to take about 5 years, this, and cost many, many millions. So Fred said, "Get on with it." And then we, as we were sort of doing it, we realised, look, if we're spending all this money doing it, why don't we create a business out of it? Because once we get Betfred on there, we'll be able to sell it all over the world. You know, we know the US is going to start opening up soon. They're going to need a platform. We could, again, you know, pie in the sky dreams. This could be my path to a fortune sort of thing. So we went down that road. it's been a much, much bigger job than I ever anticipated. And, you know, I think when I first started, I probably thought I needed about 50 people or 40 or 50 people. Like I say, there's about 300 of us now. But along that journey, Fred sort of realised that this is going to be such a big thing for Betfred and what they want to do, that he don't want to share that with anyone else. He doesn't need to make money off the back of Sharp Gaming. He's going to make more money and generate more value on Betfred, which is his business. Is, you know, it's Betfred. You know, it's his name's above the door. So, you know, and it's not like he's short of a few quid. So, you know, that's where Sharp Gaming came from. So we went from kind of like being a project inside Degree 53 to being a start-up tech company to being acquired by Betfred, and today we are in control of all of the IT and technology for the Betfred Group.
Jeez, wow. Okay, so what was it like? So you begin this massive project, like you said, it's going to take 5 years, millions of pounds. First day on the job, what do you do? Where do you start?
Well, you start with planning, and I think what I know now is probably didn't start with enough planning, because like I said, I thought it'd be 50 people. I thought it'd be easily done in 5 years, and you know we're approaching 5 years now, and you know we'll get it. We'll get Betfred on there this year, but you know it has been absolutely mammoth, and I guess it's been, you know, a really challenging journey. And there's a lot's happened along that way, to a lot of challenges. And you know, I think when I ran Degree 53, you know, I said, you know, you go in there thinking, you know, I'm super smart. I've got this opportunity. I've got this business. You know, I just want to be in a place where I'm on the golf course doing deals. And I don't even play golf, so I mean, I'd have to have a lot of spare time to even learn how to play golf. But obviously, you learn what you don't know quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and it improves you as a person and as a professional. With Sharp, there's been, you know, so many big challenges which I never foresaw. You know, COVID. You know, going to remote working. You know, trying to teach people the betting industry when you're not just sat next to them pointing things out anymore. You know, that's been a real challenge. But also, you know, getting the right people. You know, there is like what we're trying to do. Not many people in the world have done it the way we've done it. And you know, I'm sure there was probably, you know, in hindsight there'd be different ways of doing things now. But you know, as you'll know from your business, that you know there's a real lack of talent in the industry at the moment, and it's very competitive. So you know, that's been a real challenge to get the right people who can deliver us or who can work with me and be on this journey, because it's you know, it's a big challenge, and it continues to be. I'm a big believer that you know, you only grow through challenge and failure. What I should say is you learn the most through your failures. Because when, you know, everything's going well, you think you're the king of the world. Yeah. And you don't realise what you don't know. And I think, you know, with Sharp, we're trying to build something incredibly big and worthwhile for a huge business, a successful Manchester business, which is Betfred. It's not really about what happened on day one, because day one was 5 years ago, you know, and you know, we did so many different things, buying technology, you know, going on a global tour looking for people who could work with us on this project. That was kind of like stuff that happened in the early days. And you know, I remember one year we were doing about 60 to 80 flights all over the world. I was meeting different partners and everything, and it was like sort of fantastic. I remember like going to see a partner in Lithuania and them taking me out tank driving, and bought a car for me to run over with a tank, which was incredible. Yeah, so you know, and it was you know, in the early days it felt like we've got this opportunity to do all this kind of like big thing, and you know, it's at that point you realise that actually what I've known from running a company of Degree 53, which is 50 people or so, running independent projects is different to running something on a global scale, for a huge business like Betfred. And you've always got to be self-awareness to know what you don't know, I think.
Yeah, he who knows everything knows nothing is always a famous thing. Wow. Yeah, and I think the reason I ask is because we've had a few things recently, and I've spoken to a few business owners who have these massive projects, nothing the size of Sharp Gaming, but have this big either problem to solve or solution they're trying to deliver or whatever it might be. And it's always taking that first step. It's like, it can be so daunting. I know, the way you devour a whale is one bite at a time and you have to take it bit by bit. But that's a really, really interesting way of putting it. Where you start is you just prepare, plan.
What my suggestion with something like that is, where do you start? Is just get started on something, because the quicker that you try something and either succeed or fail, you've made your first step. Like, I'm really interested in like the concepts of lean, and like, there's a book called Lean Startup about test learn, and the only way you're going to learn anything is by try something, by doing something as cheaply and as quickly as possible to get that feedback, because that's the only way you can work in this sort of the world we live in, because there's so many things, there's so many opportunities for people out there, but if you don't try it and don't have a go, you're never gonna know, are you?
Yeah.
According to the paper this morning, there's the highest level of job vacancies that there ever has been. So what's the worst that can happen if you fail? You go and get a job.
So we talked about your journey so far, where Sharp came from, where Sharp is now. What's the next year or two look like for Sharp, and what are you trying to do with it?
So we're going to get Betfred.com migrated onto our platform, which is a huge undertaking. We're moving billions of transactions, millions of players and bets, and we've got to do that around the sporting calendar. Once Betfred.com's live, we're looking at kind of like international expansion. So with Betfred, have got operations in Spain, in the US, in South Africa, and we're looking to expand our platform so it's got a global reach. We're also looking at the retail offering. Betfred.com, which is where we've been concentrating on, is a successful online business, but Betfred's retail business is phenomenal. Whenever you meet somebody in tech, someone a bit like me, I guess, digital sort of native people, they think, oh, betting shops, that's not going anywhere. But they're absolutely phenomenally successful. People like that environment. It's something where it needs to evolve and adapt, and technology is part of that. You see what's happened in like McDonald's, for example, in terms of like he's gone from having to queue up for ages to ask someone to take the gherkin off the burger and stuff like that. But you can now most of McDonald's business is going through the touchscreens. They've only got, I believe, one person serving now at McDonald's, and that's driven revenue up. And there's all types of opportunities. So how does technology drive the physical world for us in the betting shops? So that's something that we're looking at as well. But some of these projects that we're looking at, are 2 or 3 years. When we're looking, saying, right, this is a project. It's going to take us 2 to 3 years, probably 3 years. We're probably going to need 50, 60 more people. Where do we get those people from? How do we build the infrastructure for those people? And when I say 50 people, actually, I'm thinking 50 developers and testers. And off the back of that, you need product owners, managers, DevOps people, and that's the real challenge, I think, in anybody's technology business. Any business that uses technology, which I think nearly all of them do today, is where do we get the people from? And that's what's, I think, holding back a lot of businesses that I speak to is the ability to build a technology function.
That's literally it. You said about the vacancies before, the amount of vacancies that are available right now. I'm interested. Do you have any views on how businesses can overcome that, or have you tried anything out?
Well, that'd be telling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, true.
No, I think it's a real challenge. I speak to people all over the world, and it's no different here. than it is in Silicon Valley or in Australia or in Europe or Canada. There's just not enough people, and mobile really changed it, because mobile meant technology was very accessible, and from that, the pandemic has digitalized everything. And every business that was still, I guess, still very much in the physical world had to be digitalized. So we're just not educating enough people, I don't think, in the skills that they need. Or maybe it's not seen as an attractive place to work, but people when they're at school. But like for me, it's like I've got, I think, 8 or 9 GCSEs. That's the only qualifications I've got, and I think technology is an area where your qualifications don't really count for much, because every year things are changing, and you just got to be a problem solver, and use your intellect to learn what these things are, and you can earn a lot of money. A graduate developer earns a lot more than a graduate accountant, and they've probably have to do another 5 years worth of training off the back of that. If you're trying to build a team, is you have to kind of like make sure that you've got an attractive place to work, attractive problems for people to solve. You've got to be prepared to pay for it. But I think what we're looking at is we have to look at where in the world can we get this people, and we've got people globally. There's challenges with hiring globally, and the issues in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine has affected everything, because Ukraine was one of the biggest places in Europe for tech talent and businesses outsourcing to there. So that's had a knock-on effect as well. So it's a challenging time, but that's what we're here to try and overcome.
I guess a big lesson there is just, because I don't think anyone really has the answer, right? But I like having interesting problems for people to solve. That's great. But I think what you were talking about there then as well was just being flexible in terms of your approach. Try things out, kind of like the lean kind of startup, what you were talking about before. Try things out. It doesn't work. Okay, let's change. Let's pivot. Let's being agile like that, and not just being stuck in your ways. And again, talking about failure and talking about testing things and things failing and things not working and learning from your mistakes. I always like to ask the question, when, I'm sure you've got many, because I asked you this question before and you were like, oh yeah, that's fine. Don't worry, I've got plenty. When was the time you really royally fluffed up, and what did you learn from it?
I think the thing that sticks in my memory the most, the thing where I learned the most, and I think it was like a coming of age story, and in the terms of scales of stuff that I've done since, it's probably kind of it's probably not that big of a deal. But when I was a developer, I ran a script on the production database which deleted the production database, and it took me a few hours to get it back up. And we're out of business for a couple of hours. That day, I learned how to be diligent,
yes,
and to test things properly. And I think up till then, that was the worst I'd ever felt in a professional environment. And lots happened since. Running businesses and all that sort of stuff. And I've probably made much more financially costly mistakes since then. But that to me was something that always sort of stuck with me, where no one even really told me off, because they knew that I knew.
Yeah.
And that was something that always sticks with me, which that would be what's the biggest mistake you've ever made question in an interview. But then maybe I should be thinking more that maybe I'm not a developer anymore. Like I think on sharp planning and was the issue. The biggest issue I got wrong is that I thought I knew how to build a massive system, because I've built systems before, but I didn't. And that's meant that the journey's been more turbulent than I would have liked. But I think the one that sticks in me is dropping that database, because it was one of them where you kind of like you knew instantly what had happened, and it was sort of had to rebuild it all, and it was a bad day.
Did you get shouted at?
No, I did. No, I don't. I can't remember being shouted at. I think I just knew. I knew in myself how bad it was.
Oh God.
It was one of them where, going back to this thing about kind of like, you don't know your own limitations until something like that happens. And and I learned that I was too carefree, and it cost me, and it cost the business. And for me, like technology, I've always viewed technology as something that enables business. It's not, technology for technology's sake. It's not that kind of like, not how I see the world. And the fact that the business was impacted by something that I did was something that scarred me.
In a good way. But you were talking about earlier preparation, diligence. So just not being careless, being careful, and making sure that you got all the information before moving ahead with a big situation. Okay, that makes sense. If you had to recommend one book, what would you recommend and why?
Start with Why.
Okay, Simon Sinek.
Yeah, so I just think it's just inspirational. It's very easy. It's a sort of book you can like. I think I read it in a day. It's just straight through it, and I read a lot, and so that one sticks in my memory. I think you should always read as much as you can and try to expand your mind and get new different concepts. But from a business perspective, I think that's really interesting. And I think the second one would be if someone's trying to launch a business with technology, read The Lean Startup.
Wonderful. Well, look, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Any business owners or startups in Manchester who are looking to scale the business and perhaps one day sell it will learn a lot from this conversation, I assume. Don't delete the database. But no, thanks for coming on, and yeah, looking forward to seeing where Sharp is in the next 2 years.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem.